My name is Ntando Cele. I am a performer and theatre maker. I have worked in a number of diverse projects. I am searching for a kind of style or language that defines my work as an authentic interaction. I'm looking for a space where I'm not boxed in by stereotypes.
Home has changed for me so many times. Before I moved, already home wasn't such a big deal for me because we moved a lot when I was growing up. So I counted, when I finally lived here, I counted that we moved 13 times before. Don't ask me, ask my mother what she was doing. Yeah, so I've always wanted to have a base. That's important for me personally, to have somewhere where I put all my stuff, because I hated the fact that we moved so much. So then when I moved from South Africa to here, then home again changed. At some point I was also thinking about home is where the heart is, and all this corny stuff. But again, South Africa is home. And here, am I home here? Sometimes, not all the time. I have moments of when I do things that that empower me, then I feel home, if that makes any sense. If, for example, what is it that scares me here? I used to get very scared of shopping alone, here, because of the language. I'm scared to then have a problem and not know how to, maneuver the language problem. And so, for example, going to the Brocky, if I do something like that for myself and manage to do it calmly without freaking out, then I feel at home.
What is it, an independence thing or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe if I feel independent, yeah. And also the first time I started paying for my own insurance, I felt home. So there's things like that that make it, home. I think I say things like, if I die, I want to be buried at home. So again, with things like that, like dying, then home is home. You need.
Mm-hmm.
And also, actually, the reason why I go home, it's the same. It's one and the same. It has to do with the life changing and how drastically my life has changed at the moment, and I sort of need to reconnect again with whatever home is, and maybe I made a decision that home is people, maybe, not necessarily structures and things like this.
What is the relationship for you between home in South Africa and home here?
I used to feel a lot of pressure between the two. So much so that I spent a lot of time denying that I'm here. Because people also always say, because of the work that I do, also people are always like, you're where? You moving to where? And then I say, no, I'm not moving there. I'm just living there right now. Currently based in, and people are like, and then constantly justifying myself, blah, blah, blah. So between that time when I was doing a lot of justification, I did then spend a lot of time trying to do stuff at home so that
Meaning South Africa?
Yeah, meaning South Africa. So that I'm there more, then I'm spending more time there, and I want to keep up with what's going on there. I want to not forget what's going on there, things like this that I put myself under a lot of pressure about. And now it's a bit better. I don't have the same angst about it. And when I'm here, I'm here. And now, but it also has a lot to do with work. When I didn't have work, then I looked back more. And now when I do have work, I don't think about going home because I have work, I have something to do. I'm completely concentrated on something. Well, I also get asked all the time, like, yeah, so how do audiences respond to your work in South Africa? And then I'm like, well, yeah, so I haven't actually shown anything recent, of my new, not new, but of how I have evolved, in South Africa.
But Black Off you've done there?
No.
Not?
No. Face Off I did once, but it was a very specific audience. It was at the platform in Joburg. That was for a very specific audience. It was a free space, type of thing with one light.
Wow.
Like this, and a TV. The style actually started here mostly. Well, yes and no. So maybe stuff that I was doing before was more character based, and I did use I hid the context a lot, that it was about race or about being a woman in South Africa, because my memory about how I felt as an artist when I was there, or how I feel when I'm there, is of fear. And I don't know how truthful it is, to the moments that I would experience in South Africa. Fear mostly. Fear-based.
Fear?
Well, fear of being raped, fear of being mugged, fear of walking down the street, fear of this, fear of that, and thinking I should dress a certain way so that I'm not noticeable. I should, things like this. And I think that also influences what kind of work you make. And so when that kind of wasn't an issue anymore, maybe it made space for another source of dealing with creativity, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you're not hiding anything now.
No.
I mean, it's like unbelievably in your face.
Yeah, it is what it is, and bam, yeah.
I'm curious about your take on how audiences, what they allow to happen to them with these kinds of works.
Yeah.
Maybe a Swiss audience, because they're quite polite.
Yeah.
They sort of
true.
work.
Yes.
They're quiet. There's this thing about silence.
There's a rapport.
Right?
Yeah.
If that would work there.
Yeah. Never thought about that.
Really?
Well, in the beginning, I was scared of this work anyway, because I've never wanted to be a female artist that talks about identity. Because I remember, like, maybe 10 years ago, it was a big deal to have all these female Black artists come up who deal with the issues of identity, and I was like, I don't want to be one of these. I thought there's already way too many of us dealing with identity. So to then be here and end up talking about prejudice is also very funny. So then it meant I had to find a really interesting way to do it, because I had vowed to not go in this direction.
So how did this happen then? I mean, why did you break your vows, basically?
Because vows are stupid. That's why. And also, if you don't know what you're talking about, why are you making vows? You know, you don't know where you're going to be tomorrow. No, because in Europe, as you might know, it becomes, being black became an issue. And not that it wasn't an issue in South Africa, but it was a different kind of issue. And this is what I struggle to fully explain here when I get asked about the two of why now, why here. It feels like it's necessary. Maybe that's what makes it. That's what also gives it a certain strength on on the private side. Like alone, I know that it is necessary. It needs to have a place. It belongs somewhere. This might not be the time, or but it needs a space, and theater, luckily for me, is just one of those places where I can create the context and do it the way it is.
I am Bianca White. I am a quarter Zulu. I am a fifth Khoi, and I'm a third generation Buramechi. I feel almost black here in Liechtenstein. I like blacks. I used to have some of them as friends until my daddy sold them all and bought me a pet dog. We are here to raise funds for my school, which is also a non-profit organization called Biatch. Black, intelligent, African, telegenic children. Please note, I say telegenic children and not photogenic, as we are now in the 21st century. We make videos.
Bianca came out of, as with some interesting things from me come from anger. Being angry and wanting to deal with a certain issue, frustration. So I was very frustrated with blackfacing in Holland. I felt like embarrassed and ugly and hurt, and which also has a lot to do with me personally. It's not only about the image of blackfacing, but yeah. So, and then the comments around it were more frustrating. But it's normal here. It's funny. It's not about you actually, and I didn't feel like that at all. So that's how Bianca came about.
And we love complaining about the weather. Oh, it's so cold. Oh, it's so rainy. Oh, it's so windy. Oh, it's so foggy and I can't see a damn thing. Did it ever occur to you that the most complicated art happens in cold places? Maybe it's to keep the blacks away.
Like, you cannot make fun of the opposite. That was my biggest frustration. You cannot make fun of the opposite of blackface. There is no opposite of blackface, and how is that even possible? And so that's how Bianca came about. It was to solve this riddle. The vulnerability part, I remember feeling it in the beginning and how uncomfortable it was. I know why it was so hard to get here. But now I've been doing it for so long that it's become normal. It's become so normal as part of the show that I completely ignore it. I have moments of catching it when I'm in Brazil, because sometimes the response is so personal, of someone coming to me or feeling that they need to come and give me a hug, and then I kind of have to be like, yeah. How should we feel when we laugh with the racists.
Who asked that?
Somebody in Brazil asked that in an interview as one of the first questions. How should we feel, or how do you feel when we laugh together in the theater, in the space during your show with the racists? And this was one of my first, I think, issues with this kind of work, or with using humor, is what am I saying exactly? Where do I place myself? And so it's a very thin line, a very fine line, and maybe the vulnerability comes in here, because it then helps me to send a secret code, to somebody who knows what this feels like, to know where it's coming from, if that makes any sense. So the intention is very clear. I don't know. It's difficult. It's not the kind of work I think that you do for. I had to do it so that I really had to have different outcomes. I don't think there's a right response.
Are there wrong responses?
Yeah, for sure they are. Well, but I mean, I don't mind. I think everything goes in that room while we are all torturing, while you are watching me torture myself and I'm torturing you, and I think everything goes. It's all good. In the moment, I think then it's what we do afterwards then that makes a difference.
The show is for white people in Switzerland. But they're not the only ones who come see it. And I'm curious about the different kinds of responses you'll get from white Swiss people, just white people in Europe, from South Africans or other Africans who haven't spent all that much time here, and from maybe black people that are actually Swiss in the sense that this is their place of birth, this is their context. Is there a difference?
Yeah, there's a huge difference. I mean, also I was saying to somebody this morning who was asking me about Blackhoff for Berlin. And then I remembered that actually even talking to other black people about the difficulties of living in Europe as a black person is problematic. So it needs a context almost. And I've learned also that I don't speak to everybody about this. I speak to very specific people because they're people who believe that it doesn't happen to them. And maybe it's true, and I can't then force my beliefs on them about what my experience is. So I've also had this of people who are like, oh, I'm so sorry that you feel this way, but I've never had this problem. A friend of mine is like that. And so I've learned also to take it back and not do that. My complaining about life in general is not solely focused on the fact that it's because it's because I'm black type of thing. Because I be black. Swiss white people respond in a certain way, of course, because of what the history is in Switzerland. And again, and now I face a new, I don't want to say problem, challenge.
We love the word
challenge in Switzerland.
Such a neutral word.
It's a neutral word, hence I'm now very neutral. No, but they're different, or this work is difficult for them to accept, mostly because people who come to the theatre believe that they are the ones who are doing the right thing in the society. And so some of them get very offended and can't listen to anything else afterwards because they're offended, because they think they're doing the right thing, because it makes them feel helpless. Like, okay, so then if I'm doing this wrong, what is it that I should be doing? So there's that type of white person in Europe. And then there's the type of person that says, not my problem, your problem. And it's not true. It can't be true. Because you're the only one complaining about it. Everybody else is not complaining about it. And I found out also that things to do with race are so easy to dismiss, you know. First of all, both were very difficult to accept. Now, because I was going to say, oh, Vera was more difficult. Vera is actually even still not finished as a person, you know. I'm just using her from a very artificial level because there are certain things that I have to confront about myself in order to pursue her more. And I just I don't have the time. And Bianca is, of course, older, so therefore I've had more time to sit in it more and take it away, look at it, be okay with it, laugh. And maybe also Vera is just not funny. Vera Black is just not funny. And that's more... that's a bit more difficult to deal with. You know, because she feels like this side of me that I try not to put first in any situation. That is not a part of me that I would let come forth. The angry side, the hurt side, the truthful side. You know, I would coat it a bit more with more nervous laughter, and Vera Black has none of this, and so it's very difficult to do. So we have moments of toning her down and trying to speak in a neutral voice, because again we have the same problem of she comes across like an angry black woman, and people then close their ears, or people are not gonna hear what she says, or yeah.
Well, she's also very sexy. I mean, she's attractive on a number of levels.
I forget that she's attractive.
She's attractive, and also,
yeah.
Also she's exotic.
Yeah, yeah, true.
To me, is a strange sort of way back when object of desire that's negotiating the now moment. So it's bizarre, but true. She's almost
true. Which for me, it's such a nice way of putting it, because for me, what you just said, the way back when, what you just said, that image, for me, that's what has translated to me, or my presence here. So when you put it that way, it's exactly the kinds of things that I try to negotiate in my work and in my daily living in Europe, is of this way back when image of certain things about me, but being negotiated here and now, quickly, like really quickly. You know?
I was never in prison packed up like lunch, but I know the claustrophobia of black greens packed into Sarafina. I have never seen the inside of Amistad, but God give us free. I have not seen 12 years a slave, but I run from anyone who asks if I know that dude from Africa. Black, 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 black. They ain't talking about me. Black, 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 black. What, who, what? They ain't talking about me. I have never had a Donbass, but I remember that some lives are more important than others.
Yeah, it was
That's
so much
so
fun. I
fantastic.
loved it. It was such a good outlet. But I think I made some people angry, though.
Good, but I mean, you know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
of
I
course.
mean,
Yeah.
you can't be doing what you don't go like, oh, but people got angry. Oops, how did that happen?
Strange. You angry, you know? Yeah, I know. But also that's something I come home and talk, to then my partner about, or, where I say, hey, I forget, how far we've pushed, the way that we talk about race or the way that we confront. And then when I go somewhere else in a place where people have never seen what I do, and then it's like, oops. Oops a daisy afterwards. I still work with writing, singing, performing. When I do something, I still have these bits and pieces that I end up not using or that I keep, and then I wait for inspiration, or I hate it, or because initially this writing I absolutely hated. Parts of it I did in Holland, and yeah, mostly I didn't. I think I think all of it is from Holland, if I'm not mistaken, and maybe some a bit later.
For the songs.
Yeah, the songs. So, and then they were not songs, they were poetry or like little snippets of stories, here and there. And then I turned them into songs now when I did this in Basel, out of of knowing, or because I kept them and I would read them. I even stored them in a file called Blackness or something, so I always. And it was some of it was written during a time when I read The Invisible Man, So I have also like a nostalgic part of me about that writing. And so it developing into songs was really, really recent. It was as recent as when I did it. So maybe a month before that they became songs.
And people really loved it.
Yeah, it was good.
You had to do the same set again because you didn't have enough material.
Yes, it was great. It's fantastic. It was really interesting. Really, really interesting. And now it is a thing. It's a show, Now I've left it as
what
it is.
What do you call it now?
Black Milk. But I called it Black Milk because I did it in Brazil and Colombia. And so, yeah.
What did Brazil say? All of Brazil to your work.
Brazil is like, no, she didn't. Mm-hmm. They have moments of like, oh shit. Or of then like really amazing things of people who in South Africa we would classify as black or colored, who come up to me and say to me, hey, thank you so much. Just so you know, I didn't know that I'm black. And then I'm like, what the fuck is happening? So Brazil made whiteness a theory for me and not a color. That's an interesting thing. Not a skin color, a theory. Because before it was a reality for me. It was, something that I identified with certain things, but Brazil made it a theory, and that's something that's also so difficult to think about when I'm not there. It made sense when I realized it there, and yeah.
Meaning it's a construct.
A construct, a complete construct. And that's something so mind-blowing for my brain to accept with the kind of history that I have. To think that whiteness is a theory, what a construct, but what do you mean? My brain is like, what?
When you choose to become Bianca or Vera and you do these kinds of shows, I mean, it's a very different kind of stage presence, a different kind of relationship with an audience.
Yeah.
It seems safer in a way, it seems calmer. I think even at the time we had a conversation about the fact that there comes a moment where one needs a bit of a break also from this constant exposure, and that something like black milk might just be a little softer and a little...
True, yeah, it's to get a break. Yeah, I remember. It's to get a break. It's to get a bit of a breather and to explore something else. Yeah, and it comes as a very welcomed break, actually. And I was looking, you know, the intention was flow. You know, that was the intention, and yeah.
And then there's a bloody helmet.
I was about to say, I just thought of that as well, like flow, and then there's the helmet.
What was that with the helmet?
Maybe it speaks a lot to how I work, actually.
Head against the wall.
Huh? Head against the wall? No. No, I mean, so I take a lot of time to develop something. And also for me, maybe right now, maybe the helmet could be that it's not at the right place at the moment, the image of the helmet, the dress, but I like it though. I really like it. It's hilarious and it's so random that I liked it. And actually it read completely differently later, you know. Yeah, or something. I don't know.
It worked. No, it wasn't like, it
true.
Was just a very normal thing to do in that moment, which was odd.
And when I did it again and again, it's also like, okay, you know. So I also don't know. I don't know what it is.
I've had conversations with performance artists who use various forms of, in inverted commas, masquerading.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you would say that in some way Bianca and the helmet and Vera are masquerades.
Yes.
Are they?
Yes. I
How
would
do
say
you
that.
use that kind of mask, costuming? Is it a shield? What is it? Or is it in fact the opposite or both? Like a, what you call it, an amplifying device or so?
I think it starts off as a shield and then later develops into something else. And when I started, I don't usually know where I'm going with it. But I take forever to make sense of what it is that this image should be, you know. And so this as well, I think it needs time. Maybe that's where the helmet comes from. I did another poetry thing with the helmet, but dressed in full biker, in a full biker outfit, with boots though, like very sexy boots. It doesn't matter. And so then the banging came from. The story is that she is a being from the future. That's where the helmet came from. She's a being from the future and she asks the audience to help her get back, you know, to where she came from because she's stuck. Yes, she's stuck on Earth, and then hence the banging. The banging was with percussion only, and a lot of and a lot of traditional dancing in boots, which is also funny because I would never do traditional dancing at home. My partner helps a lot. It's such a weird word, husband. my partner, I think I'm lucky in that we can talk about things like this him and I. And also when my friends are here who experience the same thing, he's not that weird white guy, you know. He's really good at trying to understand both sides. He's intelligent enough to say the right things at the right time, which is great, you know. And so I'm very open about the kinds of people that I want around me. But of course, we've had a lot of clashes with who's right and who's not so, and he's just had to somehow he's been really good at hooking me up with the right people. Yeah, his instinct has been really good, and then I relax, and everything works out perfectly, and it's a nice cushion, a nice creative cushion. He's good with titles. I usually come up with very crass titles, and then I don't remember now, but I have a list of of course I have a list of titles, like things like nigger kisses. You know, things that should not be titles. And so he's very good at coming up with something witty. So black milk, he came up with black milk as a witty, you know, kind of like just side title. So I usually have an image. We talk about the image for a bit, and I kind of say what it is or why, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then some time passes, and then he'll say, yeah, maybe you should do this. You should have a rap about this. There's a really cool rap about outer space that was done by a group, you know, and then he will go, and then I'll listen to the rap, and then I'll say, oh, but then we get, you know, and then then the ball gets rolling, and then I say, but I want a live drummer. Where are we going to get a drummer? And then he say, I know someone, and then, you know, and so from then things keep getting added on, and then, yeah. And then I say, let's do it. Then let's just do it. We see what it looks like. We can talk about it afterwards. And then we do it. I don't know, dude. I have no idea. I just go.
So now would have been your chance, 10 steps to raise a mixed child in the West.
I have no freaking idea. I only know from my personal experience, and even then I have said to myself, when I'm awake and sane, and when I'm completely like on point, I've said to myself that I will not burden them with my own, you know, experience of what this experience is, which I think is also important, because I would like, but of course I'm going to prepare them for what this could be. And it could be that it turns out completely different for them. But I will not lie about what my experience has been, because I think it's important to contextualize for them who and what we are as their parents, you know. I'm interested in how fear works in different places. So of course I know also the fear from here, which is the fear of the black man. And I am, of course, am also scared of the black man depending on where I am. But my fear of the black man is different in South Africa than here. Here, people clutch their bags at the station. If I walk or at, you know, in a shop, or if I'm standing behind someone in a shop, I'll see them like, you know, check their bag. No, I'm not kidding. And I've had to get used to it. It hurts a lot because then sometimes I want to like push them over, but I don't. But I noticed once also here that if I see a group of black men, I have the same response that everybody else has, which is to, where are they from, you know, or, you know, there's this automatic glance for the bag, which I try not to do, because I know exactly what it feels like. And it's the message that is surrounding me, I guess, about what Black men do.
I'm curious about your experience as a Black female artist here, and your experience of either the liberties or the limitations that maybe you've observed, heard of, or otherwise.
When we think of something, we always think of a man. So, for example, if you say African dance, I think of a man, for sure. Even now, when you said in the work that you do, I thought of men only. Not women at all. Men, yeah, I mean, yeah. Theater, performance, men, more interesting than what women do. That's the message. If I am to be interesting, what would I have to do to take off my clothes? Which I've tried thus far not to do. I mean, the latex outfit is pretty close, and that's as far as I will go. That's the message, though. And when I'm told that a Black female artist from South Africa is really interesting, it's usually somebody who is talking about their lesbian identity, or somebody who is performing a naked piece. The biggest reason I remembered of why I decided to pursue this topic or this kind of work, especially for here, is to promote a different kind of me, basically, or to show a different face of me, just to say, come on, there's more. I have so much more, But at the same time, within that, and accept it for myself at the same time, that I am more than what is projected around me. Yeah. It's for the children. But living in Europe, I have not had the pleasure to even explore that far as a woman, because I'm stuck with the issue of prejudice.
You feel limited and trapped by that, work-wise?
Sometimes. I remember wanting it as a challenge in the beginning, and now because I know how I would like to work with it. So, for example, Enjoy Racism has helped me to define how I want to deal with it, because that's definitely not how I want to go. That's not the direction I want to go. I don't want the personal hands-on attacking, and I prefer the veil of theater and the lights and the distance. Maybe when I don't live here again, I will have a different subject to talk about, because every time I do something, there is no ways that I can ignore the fact that I am a Black body in Europe. No matter how much people say, oh, but isn't her work always about racism? Yeah. It's I don't think it's me necessarily boxing myself in. Maybe it is. It's possible. But I also think that it's because of how slow things are changing here. This was a nice discussion, yes.
Yes!
I hope I look amazing.
I'm pretty sure you look pretty flippin' amazing.
Yes, great.
I've asked you to get the wig, but it's not a circus project, okay?
Damn it. No, I'm good. No.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you for a nice interview.
And now to some advertising.
And now the ad. Yes.
For what?